Hey, and welcome back to another video. I'm Matt Shell, and in this video, I want to talk about gathering a kind of visual vocabulary for your game early in production and some tips for how to do that. In this case, I'm using Pinterest. I'll show you some of the stuff I've pulled together. It's pretty. And thinking about visuals and thinking about especially visual differentiation. Let's get started. So, I think that we all can agree, without this turning into another kind of like doom and gloom indie-pocalypse type discussion, that the indie game landscape is as competitive as it's ever been and becoming more so. Differentiation is more important than ever. And one of the first ways that anybody is going to encounter your game and that your game is going to kind of speak to people and grab their attention and make an impression is visually, right? Visuals, I would say, are more important than they've ever been, right? Getting somebody to kind of look at your thumbnail on a storefront as opposed to the 3 games next to it, or standing out of a kind of a scrolling social media feed, or grabbing somebody's attention on an expo floor. That visual punch is incredibly necessary. One of the things that I've been doing, I'm working on my Untitled Cute Space Game, and I want to develop the visual language around the game. So what I'm doing is I'm gathering reference, and I'm using Pinterest as a tool. And Pinterest is actually an amazing tool for this. It actually has a very cool algorithmic image recommendation engine, allows you to build these boards, right? So you can build a board that, I mean, it could be your kitchen redesign board, right? Where you collect together all pictures of kitchens you like. In my case, it's a board of images that I want to kind of bring the feeling of and bring some of the visual vocabulary of, gather together for my space game. Doing it on Pinterest is useful, right? Instead of just, let's say, scrolling through Tumblr, or Tumblr is another tool that's valuable in this regard, right? Tumblr has a great community and a lot of great content on it, and you can use Tumblr in the same way. And I like Tumblr. But Pinterest for me was really nice to be able to go through and just add pins, as they call them, add images to a board and collect together, basically make this kind of huge collage, this kind of mood board of images that I found inspiring in one way or another, and that could kind of give me a feeling and start to inform the visual vocabulary of the game. And this is also now something that I can share with somebody. I think that this is premature. It's just something I'm interested in doing kind of as a learning thing. I think I'll document it here on the channel. But basically what I want to do is try to hire a concept artist, or like a character artist slash both, right? Character artist, concept artist. But basically try to hire a person to make some drawings of the game and the world of the game to start to really refine what it's going to look like, and that I could then theoretically turn into 3D assets, right? Start to turn into 3D models. I think I got to just start talking to some artists and see what they think. But I think that's going to be an interesting process. And that is one of the things that I think is going to be interesting to explore on this channel and in this process is collaboration, right? Is how do we bring more people to work on a game? Not necessarily like building a full-time team. I definitely can't afford a full-time team, and I don't have enough work for a full-time team to do. I'm still exploring myself, but starting to explore a look in a more concrete and detailed way is something that I'm interested to try. And I think even if I end up wasting my money making some art that I end up not using, or I end up canning the project, it'll still be a valuable learning process. But yeah, so that's kind of on a non-technical side, that's kind of what I'm working on in terms of the game. Like a week or two ago, I spent a whole day, almost like a whole Saturday, like just sitting there drinking coffee, clicking stuff on Pinterest, right? And click through thousands of images, pulling stuff together, which was really fun, by the way. Like that was also part of it. It's juicy for me, right? It's inspiring. It's like I'm drinking in all this information and narrowing it down, and that gives me a lot of feeling and motivation, right? It's kind of refreshing, right? I'm sitting there programming, looking at the same kind of proxy art assets that I have in there from the asset store. You know, I was feeling a little fried, and I'm like, man, I don't actually feel like programming today. Let me go do this instead, right? And that was like a nice way to like change my attention and do something different, and felt really good. Now, very importantly, these are not my images. I don't own the rights to them. All credit and copyright goes to the original artists, and I hope that nobody feels badly about included in this list. I'm not claiming any ownership over their work. I'm just showing it as an example of something that I learned from and was inspired by. I think that one of the interesting things that I've been close to lately is Sam, my partner at Thousand Ant. His game Skate Story is this beautiful, artistic take on the skateboarding genre. You're a glass, kind of polygonal glass skateboarder skating down into the underworld. The feedback to it has been strong. It's got momentum. People are noticing and paying attention. It's going well in terms of the early building of attention around it. And I think that so much of that is down to the visual style. Sam is a very talented visual designer and artist, which obviously helps, right? But it's unique and arresting, right? I couldn't point to it and be like, oh yeah, that just kind of looks like he just took the art style from this one and then put it with the art style from that one, and it's chocolate and peanut butter, and there it is, right? It's really like, for me anyway, I see it and I'm like, what's that, right? And I kind of think this is, I mean, not to gas up my partner, right, or our project, but Sam, if you're listening, you're still not good. I'm just kidding. I think that having that arresting, most importantly, unique art style is really critical, right? And that is not easy. But I do think it's something that you can work at. This was actually a discussion that I had years and years ago. This was Kelly Santiago, who was one of the founders of that game company with Genova Chen. And it's a conversation that I had on my Noob Quest podcast about 5-6 years ago now, when I was just starting in the games industry. I managed to get her on the podcast, and I was like, whoa, you know, I super looked up to Journey and Flower and Flow in those games, and so having her on the show was amazing, and getting to talk to her. Shout out to her for doing that, because I was nobody with no views, no audience, you know, so that was cool. She described their first game, Cloud, which was this, you were like a little cloud person flying around, kind of almost like a sheepdog herding sheep, but they were clouds, right? You were kind of gathering together clouds and making these shapes. And she mentioned how it stood out because every game they were next to at every show or on a floor, or when you saw images, was all brown and orange and, you know, these kind of earth tone palettes, or dark and black and metallic. And their game was this sky blue with these splashes of white, right? It just looked different. People just would look at it, and it was just, at a glance, you could see that it was different, right? And that was powerful. Hopefully you guys found that interesting. I think it's an interesting topic, how to kind of develop a visual style for your game. And if you enjoyed the video, please do consider subscribing. Drop a like, which helps us to be discovered via the YouTube algorithm. Drop me a comment down below if there are other topics like this that you'd like me to talk about, or if there's another topic that you would be interested in for one of these talking type videos. Let me know if you think just these kind of talking type videos are interesting. Generally, I think it's cool. I watch a lot of stuff like this, but I don't know if you think it's cool, so let me know. Yeah, as always, I just really appreciate your spending a little bit of time with me here, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.